Hi, I'm Terry Ladd with Pink Iguana Analog Services, and now we're going to talk about how to inspect a respirator, how to clean a respirator, and how to correctly store a respirator. So we'll start with how to inspect a respirator. The way I like to start is by looking at the filters first. I want to make sure that the filters aren't wet. If the filters become wet, they're no longer adequately filtering out the particulates in the air and need to be replaced. So I take the filter and I screw it off. I take a look down into it. It looks dry. It looks dry. That's good. I'm going to take this other one off. It looks dry. It looks dry. These filters are in good condition. I'll put these aside while I inspect the rest of the mask. The next thing I'm going to look for is on the mask itself, the blue rubber part that fits to the face. I want to make sure that it's not cracked, drying out, ripped, or torn in any way. I want to make sure that it is still fully pliable and in good condition. So I'm going to take a look at that on the inside, make sure the seal is all good. This one looks to be in very good condition. Next, I want to take a look at the bands. There's two sets of bands on your typical half mask respirator. There's the crown or head band, and there are the two neck bands that reach around behind the neck and connect. So I'm going to make sure that the connection behind the neck works correctly, that it's not broken, that it actually holds correctly. I'm going to take a look at the bands to make sure that they're not frayed. They seem to be in good condition. There's no fraying on these bands. And now I'm going to take a look at the crown band. These bands are not frayed. They're still fully flexible. The plastic part over the crown is not cracked or torn in any way. So the bands are all in good condition. Lastly, what I want to do is I want to take a look at the valve covers. The valve covers sit on the inside of where the filter screws onto the mask. So I'm going to flip the inside of the mask out and take a look at these little round rubber discs. And I want to make sure that they're seated correctly, that they're not ripped or torn, that there's no gaps between that little rubber disc and the plastic seat that it sits on. And this one looks to be in very good condition. Sometimes they pop out. They're easy enough to just place right back. They pop right back in. And take a look at the other one. It looks to be in good condition also. So there you have it. I've inspected the mask itself, the headbands, the neck bands, and the valve covers to make sure they're all in good repair. So this mask looks to be like it's ready for use, and that's how we inspect a half mask respirator. Next, we're going to talk about how to clean a respirator. Cleaning a respirator should be done anytime that it's fouled, and at least at the end of the day. If you or your employee are working in a very dusty environment and it becomes fouled every half an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is, stop and clean it out. The way we do this is using an alcohol swab. We start on the outside, clean the outside of it first, and then we move to the inside. The outside, you're just wiping it all down. There's no particular order, whether it's top to bottom, left to right, doesn't really matter. But there is a particular order when we're cleaning out the inside of a mask. What we want to do when we're cleaning the inside of a mask is we want to start in the innermost area and wipe outwards towards the outer edge. And it looks something like this. I have my alcohol swab, I reach into the center, and I want to clean out to the edge. From the center out to the edge. Turning it, center out to the edge. What I want to make sure is I want to turn it regularly. I don't want to wipe it and then put that dirty area that's contaminated back into the center. So I want to wipe it, turn it, wipe it, turn it, wipe it, make sure I'm using a fresh area each time that I go around. Once that's done, then you're done cleaning it. It's just wiping down the outside and making sure that you use a particular method to wipe down the inside, from the center out to the edges. Next, I'm going to talk about how to properly store a respirator. Now I'm going to talk about how to properly store a respirator. Respirators, anytime they're not in use, they need to be stored in a sealable, resealable bag. And the reason for that is that the filters only work so long when exposed to the open air. Filters are good for, on a respirator, when it's being used, roughly 40 hours worth of work. If the respirator is not being worn and it's left out in a plastic bag, it's good for roughly 3.5 to 4 weeks. If a respirator is not being worn and it's left out in the trunk of a car, in a box on a job site, not in a resealable bag, it's going to expire in about a week and a half. And these things are not cheap, so it makes sense to make sure they're stored correctly. I highly suggest that before a respirator is stored, that the filters are covered with a piece of tape. It's easy enough to just quickly take a piece of tape and put that over the filters. And that stops the air from getting in and will protect the filter, extending its longevity. Once both the filters are covered, we take the plastic bag, place the whole thing into the plastic bag, reseal it, and there you have it. That's how to correctly store a half-mask respirator. Next, we're going to talk about how to do a respirator fit test. And I'm going to have one of my employees, Joe, working with me on that, and you'll meet him shortly.